My name is Anna. I'm 22 years old, and this is the part of my story no one knows. If you've ever smiled while silently falling apart, you'll understand. It started with a choice that didn't feel like a choice at all. My parents called it an opportunity. A promise of stability, respect, a good life, everything a daughter should be grateful for. I remember the way my mother looked at me when she said, "Sometimes love comes after marriage." I wanted to believe her. I really did, but I didn't have the heart to tell her that mine had already chosen differently long before the wedding dress, the invitations, the rehearsed smiles. That quiet part of me that once fluttered with possibility had already grown still. And yet I nodded, agreed, and kept moving forward like someone drifting in a current they never meant to fall into. The preparations were grand. The colors, the flowers, the music all so carefully planned. I watched it happen around me, not really to me. There were moments when I wanted to scream, to say, "This isn't what I want. This isn't who I am." But the weight of my silence felt heavier than my words ever could. Everyone was so proud, so excited. And I just didn't want to disappoint anyone, especially not my father, who had sacrificed so much to build the life we had. They said I looked beautiful on my wedding day. And maybe I did, but I felt like I was watching another girl walk down that aisle, someone braver or maybe just better at pretending. As the vows were exchanged, all I could think about was how my heart didn't beat any faster. It just sat there still, numb, waiting. After the wedding, the silence became louder. Not the silence in the room, but the one between two people trying to create a life from nothing. I kept hoping the warmth would come. That maybe, just maybe, something would grow where nothing had ever been planted. But days turned to weeks, and the emptiness only deepened. We talked about logistics, schedules, surface-level things, but never about feeling, never about me. Every night I lay in bed beside someone I barely knew, while my soul curled inwards. I started writing letters to no one, pages filled with words I couldn't say out loud. Words like "I miss who I was before all this," or "I wish someone had asked what I wanted." Those letters became my escape, my only place where I could be honest. Sometimes I looked at the mirror and wondered what happened to the girl who once dreamed about a life full of laughter, soft hands, long walks, stolen glances. Now all I had were obligations, expectations, and a ring that felt more like a chain than a promise. No one knew, not my friends, who still texted me, asking how married life was. Not my family, who proudly displayed my wedding photo in the living room. And certainly not the people around us, who only saw the surface, the coordinated outfits, the smiles for photos, the appearance of happiness. I became good at pretending, too good. The hardest part wasn't the absence of love. It was the absence of being seen, of being known. I became a version of myself I didn't recognize, careful, quiet, always holding back. I didn't want to cause pain, to break the illusion everyone believed in. So I stayed, I nodded, I smiled. People think heartbreak comes from breakups, from fights, from big loud endings. But sometimes it comes quietly through 100 little moments where your heart slowly disappears one piece at a time. Mine faded behind pleasantries and silence, behind dishes and dinner plans, behind the life everyone else thought I should be living. I often wondered if I would ever be brave enough to say the truth out loud, to tell someone, anyone, that I felt trapped, that I felt alone, even when I wasn't. But fear is a powerful thing, especially when it wears the mask of duty. So I kept it to myself, because saying the truth might unravel everything, and I didn't know if I was allowed to break what others thought was perfect. And that's how I ended up in a marriage. But I can't tell anyone. They say time heals everything, but in my case, time only deepened the quiet ache inside me. Every year that passed didn't make it easier, it just made me better at pretending. I've become someone who smiles on command, who laughs when expected, who plays her role so convincingly that even I forget I'm acting sometimes. To the world, everything looks perfect. We take photos at family gatherings, clink glasses at dinner parties, and exchange anniversary gifts that mean absolutely nothing to me. People look at us and call it love. I look at us and see a life carefully arranged, like furniture in a staged house, beautiful, tidy, and completely empty inside. Anniversaries are the hardest, not because I remember something beautiful, but because I don't. There's no warmth, no butterflies, no shared memories I want to hold onto. Just a date on the calendar that reminds me what I gave up. Each anniversary feels like a quiet alarm bell that no one else can hear. I smile, of course, I always do. I wear the dress he likes, say the right words, and pretend that the flowers mean something. But inside, I count the years not as milestones, but as the distance between who I am and who I was supposed to be. People often ask me what it's like to be married. They expect sweet answers, stories about morning coffee and shared secrets. I give them that not because it's true, but because the truth is too heavy for most people to carry. No one wants to hear about a woman who wakes up every day beside someone she doesn't love, who cooks dinner in silence, who has mastered the art of looking happy without feeling anything at all. Sometimes, I wonder if I even remember what real joy feels like. There are moments when I catch myself staring out the window, longing for something I can't name. It's not even a person, really. It's the feeling of being known, of being chosen not out of obligation or convenience, but out of love. That kind of love, the quiet, genuine kind, never found me, and I stopped waiting for it a long time ago. I carry this secret in my chest like a stone. It weighs me down in the most ordinary moments at breakfast, walking through the market, answering the phone. There's a version of me that lives behind my eyes, quiet and tired, whispering things I'll never say out loud. I think if I ever spoke the truth, really spoke it, it might all come crashing down, the life everyone thinks I'm lucky to have. The image that makes others proud, the illusion I've protected for so long. Even on the days when I feel completely invisible, I show up. I say, I'm fine, and no one questions it, because people believe what they want to believe. They believe the ring on my finger means happiness. They believe our smiles are real, and I let them. It's easier than explaining that real love was never part of this story. Not for me. Sometimes I write in a small notebook I keep hidden, pages filled with thoughts I would never dare to speak. On our last anniversary, I wrote, "Today marks another year of being someone I'm not. I wonder how many more I'll have to pretend." I didn't cry when I wrote it. I haven't cried in a long time. I think when you carry sadness long enough, it stops showing itself in tears. It just becomes a part of who you are. There are women who speak up, who run, who choose freedom. I admire them, but I am not one of them. My silence keeps the peace. It keeps my family proud, the neighbors impressed, the world undisturbed. And maybe that's what I was meant to do, keep things looking perfect, even when they're not. So when the next anniversary comes, I'll wear my best dress. I'll pose for photos. I'll say thank you when I'm handed a gift wrapped in silver paper. I'll toast to many more years, with a glass of champagne I won't finish. And no one will know that inside, I'm only counting the days until I can be alone with my notebook again. Because pretending is easier than explaining, and the truth is, everything looks perfect, but it isn't. There's a small drawer in the corner of my bedroom, the kind no one ever thinks to open. Tucked away under folded scarves and old receipts, there's a worn notebook. The pages are soft from use, the edges curled, the cover barely holding together. Every night, when the house is still and the lights are out, I slide that drawer open like a ritual. I take the notebook in my hands like something sacred, because it's the only place where I exist as I really am. I write letters, not to anyone in particular, not to someone I can name aloud, but to a presence I once felt, a warmth that lived in the corner of my chest before it went cold. These letters, they carry the weight of the things I never say during the day. The quiet heartbreaks, the numb smiles, the longing that refuses to fade, no matter how many nights pass. In them, I am honest, brutally so. I don't filter myself. I write about the way I sit across from someone at dinner and feel like I'm talking to a stranger. I write about the silence between us, not the kind that comforts, but the kind that echoes. I write about the dreams I let go of, the laughter I fake, the way I sometimes stare at the ceiling and wonder what it would feel like to be held with real affection. I never sign the letters. There's no need. The words themselves know who I am. They understand the girl who once believed in love, who once whispered secrets to the stars and believed they mattered. The girl who thought marriage meant more than shared space and split bills. She still lives inside me, that girl buried under layers of pretending, but not gone. There was a time I believed these letters might save me, that somehow, if I kept writing, I could hold onto the parts of myself that were slipping away. And in some strange way, they have. They're the proof that I feel, that I still remember what it means to ache for something real. Some nights, I write until my hand cramps, until the tears sting, but won't fall. I've grown used to holding them back. Letting them fall would mean admitting, even to myself, just how empty it all is. Sometimes I wonder what would happen if someone read them. If anyone ever found this notebook and turned its pages, what would they see? Would they recognize the girl behind the beautiful wedding photos? Would they understand the difference between being loved and being chosen for convenience? I don't want pity. I don't even want rescue. I just want to be understood, not as a wife, not as someone fulfilling a role, but as a person. A person who still believes that love should feel like more than endurance, that it should be soft and wild and honest. But that kind of love isn't mine to have, not now, maybe not ever, so I write. I fill page after page with pieces of myself. I write about moments that never happened but should have, conversations I dream of having, the way I wish someone would look at me, not through me. I write as if someone is listening, even though I know no one is. When I close the notebook, I feel a little lighter. Not because anything's changed, but because, for a brief moment, I've spoken my truth, even if only to the quiet space between the lines. It's the only time I get to be real, the only time I'm not pretending. In the morning, I wake up, put the notebook back in its drawer, and become who I'm supposed to be again. I cook, clean, smile, nod. I make small talk. I accept compliments I don't believe. I exist on the surface of things. No one suspects a thing. And when the sun sets again and the quiet returns, I'll pick up my pen and continue writing to the silence. Because some truths are too heavy to speak, but they still need a place to live. It's strange how a person can be surrounded by so much and still feel like something's missing. I walk through each day with my hands full, duties, expectations, conversations, glances. but my heart feels empty. Not broken, just unfinished, as if something vital never arrived. My eyes have learned to hide this, to play the part. But when no one's looking, they wander, they search, not for a person, not even for something I can describe, just for a feeling I've never had, but somehow know. Like a whisper I can't make out, a color I've never seen but know is real. Every morning I look in the mirror and try to convince myself that what I have is enough, that this life, this arrangement is fine, safe, predictable, but my reflection knows better. The search in my eyes always gives me away. Even in a crowded room, when laughter floats in the air and glasses clink with celebration, my eyes drift. They scan the space, hoping, foolishly, quietly, that something will stir me, that something will break through the numbness I carry like a second skin. But nothing ever does. I nod when I'm supposed to, smile when expected. I touch his arm when eyes are on us, and he touches back, all out of rhythm. There's no warmth in it, no electricity, just the cold familiarity of two people doing what they've been taught to do. There are moments when I catch myself watching others, the way they lean in, the way their faces light up when their person enters the room. I envy them, not their relationship, but the feeling behind it. That spark of recognition, that gravity, I don't have that. I never did. What I have is a routine, a life of scheduled affection and practiced responses. He doesn't notice the way I scan the horizon on long drives, or how my fingers tap nervously when we sit in silence. He doesn't see the moments I pause mid-sentence, forgetting what I was even trying to say because my mind is always somewhere else, somewhere quieter, freer. Sometimes when he talks, I watch his mouth move and think about how I used to imagine conversations filled with laughter, teasing, warmth. Not this, not the polite exchanges of roommates playing husband and wife. I've mastered the art of being present without being alive, and I think that's the hardest part, looking like I'm fine while constantly reaching for something that never arrives. It's exhausting. I wake up tired, fall asleep tired, and in between, I live in a blur of obligations and expectations. No one asks if I'm happy. They just assume I am. After all, I have what they consider everything. But everything loses its meaning when you have no one to share it with on a soul, deep level. There are nights when I lie awake, staring at the ceiling, my eyes wide open, not from fear or stress, but from longing. My mind tries to build the image of what I'm missing. It pieces together a voice, a presence, a feeling that would make this life feel less hollow. I don't see a face. I don't need to. It's not about someone specific. It's about being seen, heard, felt, and I'm not. I go through the motions because that's what I've been taught. I don't speak of my emptiness because it would unravel everything. It would break the image others hold of us, of me. So I stay silent, eyes searching in places I pretend not to look. I watch the sky from the window while stirring soup. I glance at passing strangers with a flicker of hope I don't dare admit. I scan pages of books, searching for my story in someone else's words. But nothing ever lands. Nothing ever fills the ache. The people around me call it restlessness. Some call it daydreaming. I call it surviving, because the moment I stop searching is the moment I give up completely. And I'm not ready for that. Not yet. As hopeless as it may be, some part of me still believes that one day I'll look up and my eyes will finally find what they've been looking for. Until then, I pretend not to look, even though I always am. There's a moment just before I fall asleep when the noise of the world fades, and my mind slips into a place that feels softer, warmer, and more real than the one I wake up in. It's in that space, just between consciousness and dreams, that I let myself imagine the life I never speak about. A life where love isn't hidden behind careful smiles and quiet lies. A life where it's not a secret I carry alone. In my dreams, I'm not worried about who's watching. I'm not thinking about what's expected of me, or who might judge the way my heart beats. I simply live. I exist in a world where my love is allowed to breathe, where it can stretch its arms and wrap around someone freely, without guilt or shame or consequence. There, I don't have to explain the longing in my voice or the sadness behind my eyes. I don't have to write letters I'll never send or wake up pretending again. In that world, I laugh differently. It comes from somewhere deeper, somewhere that hasn't been silenced by duty. I walk lighter, speak louder, touch more honestly. I'm not afraid to look someone in the eyes and say, "I love you," without flinching, without fear of what comes next. In that dream life, love isn't measured by how well it's hidden. It's celebrated, held, fed like a fire that never needs to burn in secret. Sometimes I dream of small things, a hand held in public, fingers intertwined without hesitation. The simple joy of sharing a glance across a room, knowing it means something real. A morning spent tangled in warmth, with no alarm to jolt me back to reality. A dinner where laughter isn't forced and silence isn't heavy. These things might sound ordinary to someone else, but to me, they're everything I'm not allowed to have. I never chose this. I didn't ask to live a life where I have to lock the most human parts of myself away. But I did what was expected. I followed the path laid out for me and told myself I'd grow into it, that I'd learn to be okay with what I had. But some things can't be taught. You can't learn to love someone who doesn't see you. You can't force your heart to stop wanting what it was made for. So instead, I dream. I build a parallel world in my sleep where I am free, where love doesn't come with conditions or consequences, where I don't have to look over my shoulder or keep my feelings hidden beneath layers of obligation. In that world, I am enough, just as I am, with all my messiness and softness and hope, and in return I am loved completely. But then I wake up, the softness fades, the world returns, the silence greets me like an old friend. I move through the motions, brush my hair, prepare breakfast, smile when I'm supposed to. I bury the dream beneath the weight of what is. No one asks what I was thinking about. No one sees the residue of that secret life still clinging to the edges of my eyes. Some days, I try to hold on to it a little longer. I replay pieces of it in my mind while folding laundry or stirring a pot on the stove. I close my eyes and imagine what it would be like to live just one day in that dream. Just one, to say what I feel without fear, to touch someone and not flinch from the truth of it. But the longer I stay there, the more painful it becomes, because it reminds me of what I'm missing, of what I've never had the chance to feel in real life. I know I can't live in that world, not really, but dreaming of it gives me something to hold on to. It reminds me that love should be more than endurance, that it shouldn't be something we hide, something we whisper about when no one is listening. It should be bold, alive, out loud, so I keep dreaming, even if it hurts, even if it makes waking up harder, because in those dreams, I finally feel like myself. Sometimes silence feels like a second language to me. I've learned its rhythms, its pauses, its ways of swallowing the things I wish I could say out loud. I've become fluent in pretending, nodding, agreeing. I've learned how to smile when my heart is screaming, how to laugh without feeling anything. Because saying the truth, the real truth, would set off a storm I'm not sure anyone would survive. There are moments when the words rise in my throat, ready to spill out, to break the glass around me. I imagine saying them, hearing them echo in the space between us. I'm not happy. This isn't what I wanted. I feel like I'm disappearing. But just as quickly as the words form, they dissolve, because once they're spoken, they can't be taken back. And what follows might be worse than the quiet ache I already carry. I've built a life around what others need from me, what they expect. A version of myself that fits their idea of a perfect picture. The wife who supports, who stays composed, who doesn't make things complicated. And if I shattered that version, if I told the truth, I don't know who I'd become or who would still stand beside me, so I say nothing. I carry the silence like a secret deep inside my chest. It follows me into every room, sits with me at every dinner, curls beside me in bed. It's there when he asks how my day was, and I say, fine, even when I've been crumbling inside. It's there when I watch couples walking hand in hand, speaking in soft tones, and I wonder what it would feel like to have a love that doesn't have to hide behind closed doors and quiet nights. Sometimes I imagine what would happen if I spoke the truth. Would he look at me and finally see me? Would he feel any of the weight I carry? Or would he just grow cold and distant, like he sometimes does when I don't smile quickly enough or take too long to respond? Would the people around us turn away, disappointed in my failure to hold everything together? I stay silent, not because I'm weak, but because I've seen what happens when you start pulling at the threads. Everything unravels, and it's not just our lives that would come undone. It's the expectations of everyone who believes in the image we've carefully built. Our parents, our friends, the neighbors who nod with approval when they see us walking together. They only see what I allow them to see. They don't hear the silence. They don't feel the distance. And still, there are nights when I come close to breaking, when the loneliness becomes so loud that it drowns everything else out. When I lie in bed, facing the wall, and wonder what it would feel like to be held by someone who knew the real me. The version I've buried beneath layers of silence and survival. Someone who'd listen without judgment, without expectation. Just listen, just see me, but I know better. Love like that belongs to a different kind of life, a different kind of woman. Not someone who's already tied to a life that wasn't built on love, but on duty. On timing, on doing what was right, not what was true. So I keep quiet. I dress up for dinners. I host family gatherings. I respond to kind messages with kind words. I play the part perfectly, and no one suspects a thing. They see what they want to see, a life that makes sense, a woman who's settled, but inside I know the truth. I've just learned how to wear it well. Every time I almost speak, I remind myself of what's at stake. Peace, however fragile, is still peace. Disruption might bring honesty, but it would also bring pain, and maybe I'm not ready for that. Maybe it's easier to carry the silence than to carry the pieces of everything that would break if I let it go. So I remain silent, not because I don't feel deeply, but because I do. Because I know that some truths, once spoken, can never be taken back. And I'm not sure the world I live in could survive the sound of mine. I don't know if these words will ever be read, but I need to write them. Maybe this is my way of letting go, not just of the silence I've lived with, but of the version of myself I had to become. I did everything I was supposed to do. I stayed. I smiled. I carried the weight of everyone's expectations like it was mine to bear alone. I built a life that looked perfect on the outside while quietly breaking on the inside. I convinced myself that love wasn't necessary, that comfort would be enough. That being chosen, even if not fully seen, was something to be grateful for, but gratitude built on silence turns into something hollow, and eventually I couldn't hear my own heart anymore, so this is me. Saying goodbye, not in anger, not in bitterness, but in truth. Goodbye to the woman who never spoke up. Goodbye to the days spent pretending, Goodbye to the silence that kept me safe but never whole. If anyone ever asks why I left, tell them I chose to find my voice. Tell them I wanted to feel love in its most honest form, not hidden, not tolerated, not just endured. Tell them I finally chose myself. That's all. Goodbye.